The following program is paid for by the friends and partners of Touching Lives.
You can always find something negative about anybody. I don't care who it is. It can be the Pope, it can be the president, it can be your professor at school, it can be anybody. You can find something negative in anybody if you're willing to look hard enough. But I want to warn you of something. There is nothing that is a greater love killer, nothing, than being cynical and negative in fault finding toward other people.
Teaching people everywhere who Jesus is and why they need Him. This is Touching Lives with James Merritt.
So, what does love look like? What do we mean by love? Let me just go ahead and tell you, it's not what Hollywood means by love. It's not what a younger generation means by love. It's not what a lot of us were taught about love as we watched TV or went to the movies or read romantic novels. And how can a person show their love to others? And how can others know that they're loved by you? How can we have this kind of love? What does it look like? Well, I want to invite you to join me in one of the greatest chapters in this book that's ever been written. It's in a book called Corinthians, 1 Corinthians. It's in the New Testament. We're in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It is the greatest description of love ever written in the history of the world. One of my favorite authors, Max Lucado, said, "This is the Mount Everest of writings about love." And I want to really, as we study these fruit and we think about this particular fruit, I want you to really think about something. If you're really a loving person, you think you are. You're a loving husband, wife, father, mother, son, daughter, brother, sister, or friend. You would say, yeah, I'm a loving person. Okay, we're going to do a love checkup. Let's just see how loving you really are. Let's put your love under the microscope of the fruit of the Holy Spirit called love, and let's see how your love matches up. Because if you really are bearing the fruit of love, three things will be true about your life. First of all, your abilities will be elevated by love. Your abilities will be elevated by love. Now listen to what Paul begins by saying. He said, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I'm nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. You think Paul's trying to make a point about love? By the way, the word that Paul uses there, no fewer than 9 times in this one chapter, is the word agape, which is really found rarely outside the Bible. See, the Greeks had two words for love. One was eros. We get the word erotic from that. And you can imagine that referred to kind of a sexual love between a man and a woman. The other word they used was the word philos. We get the word Philadelphia from that. Philos, love, adelphos, brother, brotherly love. Philos refers to kind of the warm, noble affection between two great friends. Now, both of those loves are somewhat dependent, of course, on the person that's being loved. And so we tend to give sexual love to those that we are married to, those we find physically attractive. And we tend to give friendly love to those that we like. But agape love is different. This describes a love that is based on the deliberate choice of the one who loves rather than the worthiness of the one who is loved. In other words, it's the kind of love that is not always natural. It's supernatural. It's the kind of love that on your own you would never give, but through the Holy Spirit you want to give. It's a love that you give where you expect nothing in return. As a matter of fact, it's a love that you give many times when you know you won't get anything in return. And what Paul is saying here is, God is not impressed with your abilities. God's not impressed with how well you do something nearly as much as why you do it. By the way, if you know anything about the New Testament, you may have noticed it, but Paul was basically listing some spiritual gifts here. And if you go back and read 1 Corinthians 12 before this chapter, 1 Corinthians 14 after this chapter, he's talking about spiritual gifts. So he talks about people who have the gift of tongues, and people with the gift of prophecy, and the gift of knowledge, and the gift of faith, and the gift of giving, and even those who have the gift of their own life. And you know what Paul says? Take all of your pedigree, take all of your degrees, take all of your abilities, take all of your gifts. He says, the only thing that makes you anything is love. There is no substitute for loving God and loving others. Matter of fact, did you know that every other pagan religion in the world practices these spiritual gifts? There are pagan religions that practice speaking in tongues. There are other religions that claim to prophesy. Practically every religion has some kind of faith. Many religions practice giving to the poor. We've certainly seen how in many religions they're willing to give their lives for something they believe, even though it's not true. And the point is where we get so impressed with spiritual gifts, God's more impressed with spiritual fruit. God says, look, I don't care if you speak in tongues. I don't care if you prophesy. I don't care if you've got the gift of leadership. I don't care if you have the gift of giving. I don't care if you've got the gift of administration. What I want to know is, what is the fruit of your life? What kind of fruit are you bearing? See, where we're so impressed with what people do, God is more impressed with why people do it. That's why the real mark of a follower of Jesus is not your activity. It's your affection. Everything you do for the church, for your family, for your friends, even for your boss, shouldn't really even be motivated by a paycheck. It ought to be out of love, if not for your boss and not for your company, love for God. Love for God so that you do your best. Love for God so that you'll be your best. And then love for others so they'll see you at your best. So if you really are a loving person, you really, really are, your abilities will be elevated by love. People won't be talking about how heavy a load you can carry. They'll be talking about how mighty a love you have in your heart. Here's the second thing that will be true. Your actions will be motivated by love. Your abilities will be elevated by love, but your actions will be motivated by love. Now, Paul gets down to the nitty-gritty of what real love looks like. And let me just stop and tell you this right now, because you may as well get in line and get behind me. You're not going to like some of the things he says, because when you really see what real love is, you're going to find out, like I do, I think I got to do some work on my love. Listen to what he says. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Whew! He gives us 14 characteristics of love. You talk about a checkup from the neck up. You talk about a look down from the look down. Some of these are described positively, some are described negatively. There are some things that love practices. There are some things that love prohibits. There are some things that love will do. There are some things that love will not do. So let's get started. You ready? Love is patient. If you could imagine love as like a fleet of ships, the flagship of love is patience. Now, the very word is interesting. It's composed actually of two words. The first word is themia, which gives us the word thermometer. That refers to heat or passion. And the second word is macro, which is the opposite of micro. It means long. So what it literally Paul was saying was, love is long-tempered, not short-tempered. It is long-tempered. In other words, love has a long fuse. Love takes a long time to boil. It takes love a long time to get angry. It has a long fuse, but it takes love only a short time to get over it. It has a short memory. Let me ask you a question. You have a quick temper, you're not loving. You hold grudges you don't forget, you're not loving. Love is patient. Then he said this. Love is kind. Love is kind. You know what kindness is. It's when you do something good for someone just out of the goodness of your heart. As a matter of fact, that word was even used to describe food that was tasty as well as healthy. The author Mark Twain said, kindness is a language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. So let me ask you a question. What would you say your kindness quotient is? From 0 to 100. What is your kindness quotient? So here's a question. When was the last time you did something kind for someone in your family, someone at work, someone in your neighborhood without even being asked? How is your love measuring up? Love's patient. Love's kind. Love does not envy. Love isn't jealous. I cannot tell you how many marriages I've seen destroyed by jealousy. Let me tell you something. You may think, well, I'll tell you why I'm so jealous of my wife, because I love her. No, if you're jealous, you don't love her like you should. Well, I'll tell you why I'm so jealous of my husband. It's because I love him. No, if you're jealous, you don't love him like you should. Dr. James Dobson said, if you love something, set it free. If it comes back to you, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was. There's another version I read that said this, if you love something, set it free. If it doesn't come back to you, track it down and beat it to death. Now, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just simply telling you, love is not jealous. I made a promise to Teresa when we got married. I had a little problem with jealousy because she's so beautiful and still is so beautiful. But I made a promise to her. I said, I promise you, the day we get married, and I know you're mine, because I know you'll keep your vow and I know I will keep mine. I will never be jealous again. And I have not. Love releases. Love releases. Love sets free. Envy possesses. Jealousy imprisons. How's your love measuring up? Love does not envy. Real love is glad for the good that's in another person, glad for the good that comes to another person. Someone wisely said, every time you turn green with envy, you are ripe for trouble. How's your love doing? Well, let's keep going. Love does not boast. You know, sometimes it's even harder to love when you're the successful person. I mean, have you ever known anybody that completely changed once they came into a lot of money or once they got a big promotion? I've known people, I've seen people in my ministry, they came into a big promotion, they got a bigger position, they started making a lot more money than they ever knew they would make before, and it totally changed them. They used to have time for you, right? But they don't have time anymore. They used to take your calls, but the phone doesn't seem to be picked up anymore. Well, real love not only accepts other people when they're successful, real love also accepts people when they are less successful. Love doesn't boast. How's your love doing? Love does not dishonor others. That's a word we need to hear today. The word there for dishonor refers to shameful or disgraceful behavior. I mean, no need to elaborate there. Simply put, there's a love quality that we don't find a lot these days, and it's just old-fashioned courtesy. So let me tell you what I mean. Love doesn't cut in line. It doesn't cut people short. It doesn't cut people down. It doesn't, when somebody cuts in front of you in traffic, love doesn't blow the horn. Love doesn't give an obscene gesture. Love doesn't lose its temper. Love does not dishonor others. Love is not self-seeking. I mean, if anything defines true love, it's this. Love is a selfless love. You know what it is? It's loving you. Listen, it is loving you before you love me, love. If I really love you, I'm going to love you if you don't love me back. I'm going to love you if you don't reciprocate my love. It has nothing to do with how you do or do not love me. I'm going to love you. It is not self-seeking. You know, ever so often, we'll say to someone, I love you. And we don't really mean, hey, I made a commitment to place my needs above, place your needs above my needs. So often we'll tell somebody we love them, and you know what we're really saying? I love you because of what you do for me. Or I love you because you make me feel good. Or I love you because you meet my needs. And what you're doing right now is working for the person that I truly love most, which is me, and that's why I love you. Listen, real love loves others not because of what we can get from them. It loves others because of what we can give to them. How's your love making it? How's your love doing? Mine's not too hot in some of these categories, I can tell you. Let's keep going. Love's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. In other words, the first place that love goes when somebody does you wrong, it goes to grace. Love allows people to make mistakes. By the way, that word there is an accounting term or a bookkeeping term. It literally says, love does not keep a ledger on evil. Love doesn't hold a grudge. You know, I've said before, it has a very long fuse but a short memory. Love is quick to forgive and quick to forget. Now, it's hard for us to do. Because let's face it, we all tend to keep records, mental records, when other people do us wrong. You know why we keep records of? You know why when somebody does us wrong, we kind of file that in this steel file cabinet that's right behind our heart? You know why? So we can bring it up at another time. So we can tell somebody else what they did to us. Or so we get a chance sometime, we can let that person have it for the way they treated us. Love doesn't do that. It doesn't keep a record of the wrongs that are done to you, but it's also a refusal to keep a record of the things you've done right. There was a friend of mine a few years ago. He was talking about one of the most arrogant emails he had ever gotten from a woman who claimed to be her friend. But all this woman did was brag about all the good things she had ever done for her. See, real love doesn't keep a record of your wrongs. And real love doesn't keep a record of my rights. Is your love making the grade? Here's another one. Love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with the truth. Now, this is the tough part of love. Because when you really love someone, listen, when you really love someone, you are willing to both tell them the truth when they need to hear it. But if you really love someone, you're willing to receive the truth when you need to hear it. It may be painful. It may not be pleasant, but you need it. And if you have a friend who cannot hear truth and will not receive truth, I got news for you. They're really not your friend. And if you have a friend who's not willing to tell you the truth, when you need to hear the truth, they are not your friend. So let's just take all of these characteristics. So just let's be honest. You're now the teacher giving out a grade, okay? What grade would you give your love right now? Plus or minus? Don't you say A plus or you'll really be lying. Okay, really, what kind of a grade would you give your love? Would you say, if you're a person of real love, would you say that your love is marked by what this love looks like? But there's a third thing that Paul says about love. He says your attitude will be saturated with love. Your attitude will be saturated with love. Your abilities will be elevated. Your actions will be motivated, but your attitude will be saturated with love. Now, here's what Paul's doing. Paul's really thrown a lot at us, right? I mean, he's really loaded our wagon. So he's put all this in this big box, and he's trying to think about, okay, how can I bring this full circle? How can I put a beautiful bow on this box of heavy stuff I've thrown at them? So he closes with this. He says, love, now watch this. This is so beautiful. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Now, there's a word that's repeated 4 times in that verse. It's one word in the Greek, 2 words in English. In English, it's all things, all things, all things, all things. But in the Greek language, it's one word. It's the Greek word panta. And you see it all the time in your dictionary, right? Pantheism. We get the word from that Greek word panta. Pantheism is the belief that God is in all things. A pantry is a cupboard where you can store all things. A panacea is a cure for all things. A panoply is an array of all things. Panta or panta, however some people pronounce it differently, it means all things. And here's what Paul is saying. Love always looks for the good in the other person. Love's not negative. Love is positive. Now, listen, love does not look over people's faults. It just overlooks people's faults. That doesn't mean love is blind. You know, someone has well said, love is not blind. It sees more, not less, but it sees more. But because it sees more, it is willing to see less. Now, let me just tell you something that's true. It's true about me, true about you, and I've seen it in so many people. You can always find something negative about anybody. I don't care who it is. It can be the Pope. It can be the president. It can be your professor at school. It can be anybody. You can find something negative in anybody if you're willing to look hard enough. But I want to warn you of something. There is nothing that is a greater love killer, nothing, than being cynical and negative in fault finding toward other people. Years ago, I came across a poem. This has really happened. There was a fifth grader that wrote this poem on a sheet of paper. Listen to this poem. He said, Paul's girl is rich and haughty. My girl is as poor as clay. Paul's girl is young and pretty. My girl is like a bale of hay. Paul's girl is smart and clever. My girl is dumb but good. Would I trade my girl for Paul's? You bet your life I would. Well, listen, we can always find bad in someone else or good in someone else. So why does Paul put love at the beginning of this list of all the qualities that make us tasty? Why does Paul want us to be so filled with the God kind of spirit, fruit-bearing love? Here's why. Love never fails. Love never fails. Here's what Paul was saying. If you love with the kind of love that's talked about in this chapter, if your love practices what it ought to practice, and if your love prohibits what it ought to prohibit, it will never fail. Let me just get real specific. The kind of love that we're talking about right now, that love will never fail in your marriage. Never. It will never fail in your home. It will never fail with your children. It will never fail with your parents. It will never fail with your siblings. It will never fail with your friends. It will never fail with the people that you work with and you go to school with. It will never fail in your job. It will never fail in the church. So no wonder Jesus said this. He said, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. See, love's like glue. It has the potential to create a bond, but only when it's released from its container. You know, if you want something to stick, you've got to apply it. So I just want you to listen to a covenant of love that you might want to consider using in your home or at your church. It's not original with me, by the way. It comes from a church out in Washington State that in 14 years has grown to several thousand people. And it's simply a commitment that the church has made to each other. I want you to listen to this. This is beautiful. You will never knowingly suffer at my hands. I will never say anything or do anything knowingly to hurt you. I will always in every circumstance seek to help and support you. If you're down and I can lift you up, I'll do that. If you need something and I have it, I'll share it with you. If I need to, I'll give it to you. No matter what I find out about you, no matter what happens in the future, either good or bad, my commitment to you will never change, and there is nothing you can do about it. So I want to get practical. I'm going to ask you today, before this day's over, get out a sheet of paper or a card. I want you to write a love note to somebody you know that needs it. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's one of your kids. Maybe it's a brother or sister. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's somebody at work. Maybe it's someone in a nursing home. Maybe it's somebody in a hospital. But somebody needs an encouraging word of love. I want you to write that down because the first fruit of a tasty life is love. And the more you love, the tastier you will be. For the love of God and the love of others, may God's Spirit bear His love through us because it was that love that moved Him to give His Son to us.
Stay tuned for a final word from Dr. Merritt. To watch an extended version of today's teaching message with Dr. James Merritt, go to touchinglives.org. Join James and Teresa Merritt this fall in beautiful Pigeon Forge, Tennessee for the 2019 Mountaintop Conference. Hear powerful preaching from Dr. Merritt, great music from the Cathedral's Family Reunion and the Booth Brothers, and side-splitting comedy from the one and only Tim Lovelace. Also, this year's program includes an encouraging message from special guest Ron Walters. Your conference ticket includes admission to Dolly Parton's Stampede Dinner Show, the Smoky Mountain Opry, and a day pass to Dollywood. You don't want to miss Mountaintop 2019, as you will leave relaxed, refreshed, and renewed after spending time in the beautiful Smoky Mountains. Sign up now to join James and Teresa Merritt for this amazing experience by going to mountaintopconference.com or by calling 800-309-0816. 800-309-0816.
You know, for the last several years, I produced a daily devotional email that is designed to help believers begin each new day by studying God's Word. Each devotion contains a passage from Scripture, some insights, some commentary, and a suggested prayer. The devotion is absolutely free, and you can sign up today to start receiving the daily email. Simply go to www.touchinglives.org. That's www.touchinglives.org, and look for the short sign-up form right on the home page. You can also call our help center, free call, 1-800-413-1131, as operators are standing by right now to help you register for the email. There is no better way to start your day than by spending time in God's Word. And I pray that this daily devotional will help you grow in your faith and in your walk with the Lord Jesus Christ.
To subscribe to Dr. Merritt's daily devotions for free, go to touchinglives.org to get signed up today.
One of the very first scriptures children memorize is from 1 John 4 that says, God is love. I've taught my grandchildren that as their very first verse. It's a great verse, and it gives us such a wonderful glimpse into the character of God. As we start our walk through the fruit of the Spirit, it is fitting to start with love, just like Paul did when he wrote the list of spiritual fruit in Galatians 5. This week, I challenge you to love others more deeply by finding practical ways to put your love into action. And remember this, the more you love, the tastier you will become. I'll see you right here next week for another edition of Touching Lives.
Touching Lives, teaching people everywhere who Jesus is and why they need Him. This program is sponsored by Touching Lives Ministries and is made possible by the grace of God and your faithful prayers and gifts.